day 2 of the Buy-in Summit here in Chicago, and I'm excited to bring you valuable insights how to avoid costly pitfalls during your banking transformation given the exponential technologies. And I'm joined today by 2 leaders that are really in the field overseeing banking transformation. Saket Sinha, Senior Partner and VP of Financial Markets and Banking for IBM, and Billy Quinn, who is Product and Platform Architect Lead for Truist Bank. Thank you for joining. And I'll start with you, Saket. You presented the latest research of IBM in collaboration with Buy-in on the 94% of banks failing to see benefits from their core transformation. What is the fundamental learning from this research?
We looked at the last 10 years of core banking transformation projects across the globe as banks have invested billions of dollars. And yet we find that many times banks have started thinking that they are helping their customer, but they're very inward looking. It's all about how do I re-engineer my processes? How do I get my products in the market? How about I price my product more profitably for my customer segment? But very few banks have really put customer as a center stage. Not from the perspective of how customer will have a frictionless experience of interacting with them, but really looking at the customer's lifestyle and the ecosystem customer lives in, and to think about that, how can it matter more in a customer's way they are living? And that's one of the fundamental reasons that by the time you take this core system transformation, the world has moved and the customer's experience and needs have also moved. So it's always playing catch up. It's very hard to get to the end result.
Interesting gap. How are you at Truist thinking about this challenge, and especially in your position as an architect?
Yeah, it's absolutely not a new challenge. And one of the things that's often overlooked from a core banking transformation is it's not always system related. Core is also the customer. And the customer can be client-facing, but it can also be internal. The middle office and the back office might be a customer to the front office and vice versa. So the way that we're looking at doing our transformation is having it full circle, back to front to back, with customers in the middle, both client-facing and internal from an employee experience perspective.
We have seen banks that have really tried to drive the transformation from the perspective of how a customer thinks about their daily lifestyle. That's where they have really succeeded in keeping the pace of transformation aligned with the business objective and outcome.
Yep.
A great example would be banks that have used some kind of a standard framework across the line of businesses, something like Buy-in or anything equivalent, to at least articulate how customer product and other definitions are consistent, and looking exactly from outward in point of view to establish. How's your experience at Truist in terms of where?
No, that's a great point, and you hit a key word with product, and oftentimes product means different things to different people, but from a Truist perspective, we look at product as our banking products. That is what a customer is coming to Truist to do, is to bank. So we want to align our product and platform architecture strategy to that. Every product comes through a channel. Every product requires a sales experience, an onboarding, originations, and servicing. And what are those type of NICE relationships that we can establish between clients and products and deliver that seamless platform experience, both again from a client-facing perspective, but also from our internal customers as well.
Good to hear. That's the way I am seeing some of the leading transformation happening. For example, you mentioned product, right? Take an example here, working with a bank that is driving mortgage transformation. But they're looking at mortgage product, but how it matters in their customers' lifestyle in terms of not only taking the mortgage, but also the next 7 to 10 years of the person living in the house, and then all the spend that is associated for living in the house.
Yep.
So the bank is looking at way of enhancing the flavor of the mortgage product is to include banking and non-banking product and services that will allow that customer to leverage living in the house, like buying home goods, buying furnishing equipments, doing landscaping, insurance on the home, best cleaning services, orchestrated by the bank, but provided as a valued services as part of the mortgage. So the mortgage product is much bigger than a simple mortgage product. And I think this is where standardization will matter a lot, because if you have product-driven standardization using something like Buy-in, for example, you can think of a standardization for banking and non-banking product and services. And that's what will drive a consistent understanding across organizations.
What I'm hearing from you both is it matters for an ecosystem, customer-driven approach, and how to execute or orchestrate the transformation with this in mind. You already mentioned that the buy-in or some type of standard matter,
Yep.
and especially with building in AI capabilities, I imagine there's no other way. How are you thinking of this at Truist?
No, absolutely. So from a standardization perspective, doing our core and common banking, absolutely buy-in, IBM championing platform experiences through 𝐓𝐴PQC, as well as other industry standards. We want to make sure that we can tie back to those because those are tried and true. However, one of the strategic differentiators for Truist is our ability to be able to really engage wholesale clients and look at some of those more niche products where sometimes a buy-in doesn't cover, let's say, FX derivatives down to the hypergranularity that we need, but we still are using buy-in as a potential breadcrumb to get to, are we covering our core and common things? Now let's go right into that hypergranularity that we need in order to be that strategic differentiator.
Yeah, one thing you raised very good point about the AI part of the change. And Billy, as you mentioned, you're using buy-in as a breadcrumb, but it's still to drive some of the thinking process inside the bank, to think in a structured way, in a standardized way. And I think end of the day, our belief is that most enterprise will need a sort of a standard knowledge base. And buy-in gets you to say in your organization or any other organization can get you 20, 30, 40, 50%, but then you can add your own knowledge base on top of that using the same consistent structured format. And your knowledge base becomes consistent tool of invention for everything that you're doing going forward as part of the AI services. Because now agents on AI agentic capabilities you build, you don't have to train and tune a very large frontier model, but you can then train and tune a smaller language model like buy-in and your knowledge base. You get much faster training and tune capacity and much confident output from that kind of capability.
Agreed.
Hey, thank you both for these valuable and practical insights of how to shift from this inward-looking type of transformation to more customer-centric and combine the standards and enable the AI capabilities. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
you.
Very good.